Hello everyone. We are going to study pancreas in this endocrine system part 3. Pancreas is a heterocrine gland, also called as myxocrine gland. And this is so because it is partly exocrine and partly endocrine. This means half of its portion is exocrine in function. Exocrine in function means it has ducts for the secretion of its juices, and it is partly endocrine, which is made up of ductless part, the ductless glands. Now, where is this located? It is present, if this is the esophagus which ends up in the stomach, and this is the small intestine. It is present in between the stomach and the small intestine. It is a leafy structure which is present between the stomach and the small intestine. So this is the location of the pancreas, and it is considered to be a very important gland because the secretion of pancreas, the pancreatic juice which helps in the digestive system, contains all the types of enzymes which helps in digestion of every type of food, whether be it carbohydrates, proteins, fats, etc. So pancreatic juice is loaded with all the enzymes that help in digestion. So the exocrine part helps in the production of pancreatic juice, which is produced by the pancreatic duct. Since the duct is present, we call that part as exocrine, and that is known as pancreatic acini. And the endocrine part of the pancreas is known as islets of Langerhans. So let me take a section. If we take the TS of pancreas, we see two types of cells. The cells which produce the pancreatic juice are present in this manner, and we call this as pancreatic acini, while the islets of Langerhans are present distributed in between, and there can be as many as 3000 cells inside each islets of Langerhans. This makes up almost 1.5% mass of the pancreas. So it forms 1.5% of the pancreatic mass, and it is dispersed in between. So islets means the islands. So in between these pancreatic acini, there are groups or islands which are present. So this is called as islets, and Langerhans is the name of the scientist. So these are the endocrine part of the pancreas. Now islets of Langerhans are made up of three types of cells: alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells. Alpha cells, beta cells, and the delta cells, and these are named differently because all the cells secrete different types of hormones. The alpha cells secrete the hormone named as glucagon. The glucagon helps in increasing the blood sugar level or the blood glucose level. So what does it do? It converts the stored glycogen into glucose. This glycogen is stored principally in the muscle as well as in the liver. So this is the reserve form of glucose. Whatever glucose is extra in the cells is converted into glycogen. So whenever there is a need, whenever you are fasting, or whenever there is less amount of glucose, one has not eaten, the glucagon is secreted by the alpha cells, and the stored glycogen it converts into glucose. So this process is called as glycogenolysis. in which the glycogen is converted into glucose. So the blood glucose level increases. It should be usually, the minimum amount should be usually 70 to 80 mg per 100 ml of blood. So this much amount of glucose should be present. If it becomes less, then glucagon is secreted so that the glucose level is maintained in the blood. Just the reverse or antagonistic function is that of insulin. Insulin is a very famous hormone because we come to know this due to the diabetic patients, and the insulin hormone is secreted by the beta cells. As I said, this is antagonistic in function. The glucagon is releasing glucose and increasing the blood glucose level. The insulin decreases the blood glucose level, so it makes the blood hypoglycemic. We can call this as hyperglycemic. That means it increases the blood glucose, and we can call insulin as hypoglycemic. That means it decreases the blood glucose level. So whatever glucose is present in the blood, it has to be converted into glycogen. So this is just the reverse function, and so glucagon and insulin are antagonistic. Now insulin was studied by Fred Sanger, and its entire structure was told, and this scientist is very important because he got the Nobel Prize for it. And we know how pronounced is the effect of insulin in a day-to-day world, and so many people who are suffering from diabetes because of the lack of insulin. Fred Sanger, who told about the structure of insulin, was given a Nobel Prize because artificially then insulin could be made. Now what is insulin actually? It is a polypeptide. Polypeptide means it is a protein. So polypeptide, which is made up of 51 amino acids. When amino acids link up together, they form a polypeptide. It has two linear chains. It has two straight chains, A chain and B chain. So the A chain has 30 amino acids and the B chain has 21 amino acids, and together we call it as 51. So if this is the A chain and this is the B chain, both of them are linked by disulfide bonds. These are sulfur. What? 2 sulfur. So whenever a disulfide bond is created, it is only due to the presence of cysteine. Such amino acids like cysteine which have sulfur. So both the chains are linked up by disulfide bonds. So wherever the disulfide bonds are present, the cysteine amino acid is present. So after knowing this particular structure, it could be artificially synthesized, and therefore we don't eat insulin because it would be digested being a protein, and therefore it is usually injected in the body, in the blood or in the muscles. So in this way insulin is never eaten. For this reason Fred Sanger got Nobel Prize. So insulin is a polypeptide of 51 amino acids. Now what is the action of insulin? Suppose this is the blood vessel and these are the cells. So when the glucose molecules are present after the digestion in the blood vessels, due to the presence of insulin, the insulin will help in the uptake of glucose by the cells. So when the uptake of glucose increases in the cells, the glucose level becomes lesser in the blood. This is necessary because the insulin allows the glucose to be thin and the blood to be thin, and the glucose has to come inside the cells. What happens to this glucose now which has come inside the cells? Partly it will participate in cellular respiration, and immediately if glucose is more accumulated in the cells, what will happen? The cells will become hypertonic, and therefore there may be a process in which this glucose will again flow back into the blood. It does not take place because immediately when the glucose comes inside the cell, they become phosphorylated. If you remember glycolysis, the process of respiration, the very first step is conversion of glucose into glucose 6-phosphate. So when it converts into glucose 6 phosphate, it cannot escape the cells now. So if the insulin is good in quantity and it is acting to produce the more to for the uptake of the glucose inside the cells, increased amount of glucose does not allow the backward diffusion of the glucose. This process by which the glucose is coming inside the cells is by facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion is the process in which the movement of molecules from the higher concentration to the lower concentration takes place. So since the glucose molecules are higher in the blood, they will move inside, but when we say it is facilitated diffusion, that means there is a carrier protein over here, some protein which is allowing the movement of this inside the cells. So when more amount of glucose will come here, this will become hypertonic. There may be a reverse flow, but this does not happen because immediately the glucose is converted into glucose 6 phosphate. Now there is no chance of escaping the glucose 6 phosphate back into the blood. This will continue with the process of glycolysis to produce ATP. Then it will enter into the Krebs cycle to further produce more amount of ATP, and this is what we call as cellular respiration. Now what will happen to that extra amount of glucose? This extra amount of glucose will be converted into glycogen. Now enough amount of glycogen is also converted. This is stored in the liver. Much amount is stored in the liver, almost 50% of it, and also is stored in the muscles, but we know that the muscular mass is far more than the liver. So if we talk about the absolute mass, so we can say that more amount of glycogen is present in the muscles rather than the liver. However, the liver acts as the glucostat. Whenever it is required, it will release glucose in the blood. So this extra amount of glucose which is converted into glycogen, and then even if there is enough amount of glucose, that converts into fats. So whatever glucose is present, it will either convert, it will be formed ATP by the process of cellular respiration. Some amount of glucose will be converted into glycogen, and some will be converted in the form of fats. Now this insulin, in the presence of insulin, the fats are not readily digested, and the lipase, because it is so, because fats are digested by an enzyme called as lipase. So insulin inhibits this lipase. So if lipase is less in quantity, how will the fats get digested? So if there is enough amount of insulin, fats are stored enough in the adipose tissue, and therefore a person has enough amount of fat. But if there is lack of insulin, this fat will be, this will not inhibit lipase, and lipase will keep on acting on the fats, and the fats will keep on digesting. And therefore, if you might have noticed, people who are suffering from diabetes usually become thin because they do not have fat in their adipose tissue, neither they can store enough amount of glycogen in the liver or in the muscles. So this is the reason behind the thinness of the diabetic patients. This condition, when there is less amount of insulin, this causes an increased amount of glucose in the blood. This condition is known as diabetes mellitus. So diabetes mellitus is due to the hyposecretion of insulin. Diabetes mellitus is a condition in which the blood glucose levels become very high, and also enough amount of glucose is released out in the urine. This condition is known as glycosuria. Glycosuria is the condition in which enough amount of glucose is found excreted in the urine, which is not actually in a normal case. So a normal person never excretes glucose in the urine, but if enough amount of glucose is found, we call this in urine, we call this as glycosuria. So diabetes mellitus results in glycosuria. Now let us see what is insulin shock. It usually occurs in the diabetic patients only. Whenever a person takes an injection of insulin thinking that he will eat something in the meal, but he sometimes skips the meal and the insulin is injected in the body. Whatever glucose is present in the body is used up and there becomes very less amount of glucose in the blood. Due to this reason, the person may enter into coma due to very less amount of glucose in the blood. This is known as insulin shock, when there is very little amount of glucose or no glucose found in the blood. So this is what is called as insulin shock. Now let us see the secretion of the third type of cells called as the delta cells. The delta cells secrete a hormone known as somatostatin. Somatostatin is known to be an inhibitory hormone. Not much have been known about this hormone and still researches are being done on this particular hormone, but it is so that this inhibits the secretion of the alpha cells and the beta cells. So alpha cells secrete glucagon and beta cells secrete insulin. So indirectly, if more amount of somatostatin is produced, it will inhibit the secretion of glucagon and insulin. So this is the function of somatostatin. This is the inhibitory hormone because it is inhibiting the function of glucagon and insulin. So this is all about pancreas. You may ask me the doubts in the comment section and you may even see the description box for questions. Thank you.